Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Business Mind Developers. Today we're going to discuss fictitious names, and we're also going to discuss doing business as, or what some people like to call sole proprietorship. Now, these three names that we're going to talk about are connected in ways, and they're not connected in ways. The first one that I want to talk about is fictitious name. Now, a fictitious name is an assumed name. It allows you to operate a business under that name, using that name. Now, registering as a fictitious name means that you are under a state law or a state filing act by the parent that you're under. Okay, so a fictitious name allows you to operate a business using that name, and you are regulated by the state by that filing act of the parent that fictitious name, of the parent that fictitious name is under. And what I mean under is, in order to have a fictitious name, you have to have an entity registered already with the state. What I mean by registered with the state already means that you have to have an incorporation or a limited liability company, or a limited partnership, or a limited liability partnership, or a limited liability limited partnership, or a general partnership, or a co-op, or a non-profit. You have to have one of these registered with the state, approved by the state, in order to register a fictitious name to put under that Inc., LLC, LP, nonprofit, general partnership, co-op, general partnership, or whatever. So you have to have that registered first. So that is the parent. So fictitious names are like additional businesses. They're like if you have an LLC registered, or incorporation, or a nonprofit, and you want to add an additional idea, or business, or name, or project, and you want to give it a name and want to put it under your entity that's already registered, well, you can do what is called a fictitious name registration, application for a fictitious name. And on that fictitious name, you'll understand why I say that you have to have an entity registered already, because they're clearly going to ask what entity is registered that you're going to put this fictitious name under. So, fictitious names allows you to operate several different businesses or ideas or projects under your entity that's already registered with the state. There's a small fee, but that's how you would register a fictitious name. Now, the question here at Business Mind Developers, and by the way, my name is Professor Point, for all those who didn't know. But here at Business Mind Developers, what we want to do is to create a mind of development of business and strategies in order for you to succeed. So fictitious names are a great way to operate several different businesses, okay? Now, there is one drawback to a fictitious name. When you register your initial entity, far as a LLC or incorporation or nonprofit or whatever you're registered as, that name is protected by the state. There's a filing act that protects it. For instance, like with LLCs, you have the Filing Act of 1003 of 1993 that protects the LLC. Now, the fictitious name going under that LLC is, it's like a sibling or an offspring of the LLC. It's enabled to name to be used throughout the entire state, but it's not protected far as being registered as its parent company name as an LLC. So that's the drawback, meaning that if somebody calls and wants to register a name that is similar or exactly like the fictitious name you have registered under your LLC, it's going to come up in the system that that name is registered as a fictitious name, meaning that it's not registered as a LLC, the parent. So therefore, that individual can register that actual name, similar or the same, as a LLC or Inc. or LP or whatever. So that's the drawback. But no need to worry. Here at Business Mind Developers, we've thought of a strategy that will assist you on protecting that fictitious name. But that's the drawback. You can, the benefit is you can operate throughout the state with all these different fictitious names. Because as a fictitious name, being that you're protected by the state, that means that this fictitious name, you can use it out throughout the entire state. Okay, so that's a benefit. Even though it's not registered as LLC, it's under LLC, but you can use it throughout the entire state. That's a benefit. Operating two or multiple businesses under one umbrella, that's a benefit. The parent is the LLC, and then you have all these different fictitious names that are under it. So you have several businesses that are operating. That's a benefit. The only drawback is if somebody tries to duplicate your name in some kind of way, which will discourage your customers to going to them, or somebody doing something slick and registering your name and bringing customers to them, taking away funds from you. But like I said, here at Business Mind Developers, we've developed a solution, a strategy to help you on that. So hopefully we are clear on fictitious names. Now we're going to go, actually this segment, which in the beginning we said we'll talk about fictitious names, doing business as, and sole proprietorships. Now this is kind of like a match, kind of like a boxing match. Fictitious names versus doing business as, and then we're going to throw in there, you know, like a tag team sole proprietorship. Because there's a big misunderstanding of the difference. The big thing that needs to be understood is that it's whatever makes the business, whatever it's registered as, that's what defines it by the law or the state regulation or the city regulation. The difference is if you register on the city level, then you are regulated by the city. If you register on the state level, you're regulated by the state. So therefore, when it comes to this second one we're going to talk about, because now that we understand about fictitious names, it's registered on the state level. And then we'll bring them all together at the end. The second one we're going to talk about is doing business as, or it may be called sole proprietorship. This is done on a city level, which means that you go to your county circuit clerk or whatever authority within the city and ask them how you can register a DBA, which is defined as doing business as, or you can call it a sole proprietorship. When you register there, that allows you to operate an entity or a business within the city parameters. So that name that you register can only be used within the city parameters and not outside, and you have to follow the city's rules and regulations in order to continue that business going. It's a small fee, and it's a great way for beginners to start a business if you're not really trying to take your business statewide and want to start on a more of a small scale, local, in order to test the waters. Or if that is your market, then that would be perfect for you. There are also other means of when they call it the definition of the doing business as. It's a toss-up of doing business as and sole proprietorship. They're both in the same. Sole means that that's one individual, you know, it's only you, you know. Doing business as means that you're doing it on the city level. Okay, so all these businesses, once you register them, you have to take care of your paperwork. The registration that you would get from the state if you register a fictitious name under a company registered, the parent, Inc., LLC. Make sure you keep your paperwork, all of it, together. Make digital copies of it. Keep it on a SIM card. several for backup. Now, here's where the match comes. Here's where the confusion comes. A lot of people, when they register a business in the county as doing business as, they mix up the terminology because now they feel that that name, being that it's registered on the city level, gives them the right to be protected throughout the state. That's not so. When you register it on the city level as a doing business as or sole proprietorship, you are only protected and regulated by the county parameters. The other confusion is that fictitious names, even though they're not protected like their parent name is, like the Inc. or the LLC, LP, nonprofit, general partnership, or whatever, they're not protected like them far as nobody else in the state can have that name. So if somebody calls in and wants to have the name of your actual parent name, the LLC, whatever you first registered when you did your articles, for whatever type of entity you wanted to become, that name is protected. Nobody can call in to the state agency and get that name. But the fictitious name, being that it's going under that, does not have that same protection. It only is allowed to operate as an offspring of that LLC. But the fictitious name, you can use it throughout the entire state. And see, the drawback, like we spoke before, is that somebody could call in if your name is registered as a fictitious name for us as business, and it's not registered as an LLC or Inc. or LP or nonprofit, then they can very well fill out articles with that name. That's a drawback, but we have a solution here at Business Mind Developers. Now, the DBAs, or the doing business as, sole proprietorship, registered on the city level, you only can operate within there, meaning that you are, if the county goes this way and up that way, these many miles and that way, then you can do whatever, however many businesses you want within the city, but not outside of that county. And you take the risk of somebody going down to the state and registering your name. They may see that you're a successful business in the city and want to see if it's registered on the state level. And if your name is not in the state registration as an Inc., LLC, LP, nonprofit, meaning that you're just registered as a sole proprietor or a DBA on the city level, but not also or registered on the state level, then somebody could come along and register your name that you have as a DBA, doing business as, or a sole proprietor, and very well fill out articles as an Inc., LLC, limited partnership, or whatever they want, filling out articles. So that's another drawback, because still somebody can come and get your name. But like I said, we have a solution here at Business Mind Developers. So now that you understand the fictitious name registration, meaning that you have to have an entity registered already, you know the drawback, but you can use the fictitious name throughout the entire state, just like the parent name, because it's the offspring. One thing about fictitious names, which is a good thing, is that being that a fictitious name is under the parent, if it's an Inc. or LLC, let's just say Monster Lawn Care LLC. Okay, and if I have a fictitious name under there called Awesome Gym Shoes, being that Awesome Gym Shoes is under Monster Lawn Care, and Monster Lawn Care is actually Monster Lawn Care LLC, or it may be Monster Care Limited Liability Company, or it may be Monster Care Incorporation. Being that the fictitious name falls under the parent, it is allowed to use the ending of the parent, meaning that instead of me having, it'll always be Monster Lawn Care LLC. But instead of my fictitious name being Best Gym Shoes, It was just, now I would take it to the level of putting it as Best Gym Shoes Limited Liability Company. And I know it's kind of confusing, but being that the parent has the ending INC or incorporation, meaning that Monster Lawn Care Incorporation, Monster Lawn Care Limited Liability Company, or Monster Care LLC, that fictitious name that goes under that parent's name is allowed to use the ending just as the parent has used it, if not different, because it falls under a filing act. So now you can have your fictitious name proceed as if it's a limited liability company, as it can be perceived as if it has been registered with articles. In this way, if somebody calls in, then they won't be so susceptible to open up the exact name, because if you have LLC on the end of a fictitious name, even though it is a fictitious name, you don't want to duplicate that, because then that would become a conflict. But now, here's the way that business mind developers have thought of another solution. So fictitious names, understand, or incorporations, or LPs, or nonprofits, whenever you put an entity up under your company, you can put the ending of that parent filing act on the end of the name of the fictitious name that you put under the business. So that's a great way to help you protect your name. Also, another good way is we have to talk about logos in order for you to understand this strategy. Now, logos are something that a lot of companies go by. It's a more of a promotional scheme. It's also a marketing scheme, and it's also an identity format for the company. So what you have here with the logo is you have a description, you have an identity, you have something that some people can identify you by. They may not can read the words, but if they see your logo, your drawing, your picture, your design, they'll know it's related to your business. Now, on a lot of state levels, you can register a logo or a trademark per se. And this way, you can have the logo protected. It's a fee. In some states, everybody different. You have to check the rules and regulations and fees. Different states, different capacities have different laws, different registration, different names of some things I'm talking about. But the similarity is there, and questioning them with some of these things we present will lead you to the right direction. But a logo, in some states, one state particularly, Arkansas, when you register a logo, you pay a fee of $50, and then that logo is protected for 5 years. Now here at Business Mind Developers, you also can engrave some type of wording or saying within that logo. So on the application, they ask if the logo is connected to a company. So being that you have a fictitious name that is registered under a parent name, and you have the ending put on the end, at the end of the name of the fictitious name, which will help you protect it, but it still doesn't protect you, because they still can call in, anybody could, and register a fictitious name. But if you have that name associated with the logo that you registered, now you have protected that fictitious name and grafted in the logo, and also that's a deal locked in for 5 years. So that's another good way to protect the logo. Now, DBAs, doing business as sole proprietorships, those who don't want to go statewide, we haven't left you out. You also can register a logo. You don't have to have, I'm not sure if you have to have a business registered. I don't believe so. I believe you can just register a logo, so therefore you can engraft your doing business as, or your sole proprietorship, that name you have registered on the city level. You can register that with the state. That would allow you to have your name protected in the state, because understand with state registrations, when an individual calls in and wants to know if a name is available, they're going to be looking to see if that name is connected to anything that's in their database. So if that name comes up as a logo, then they're rejected. They can't have the same name as a description or a name that is engrafted in a logo because it's protected by the state. Also, they can't have a name that's registered as a parent, as an LLC or Inc. or LP, the initial articles of registration. So if they come up with a fictitious name, yeah, they can have it, but they can't if you have the name connected to a logo. And then also, to keep competitors off, put the parent's ending at the end of the name of the fictitious name. And then for DBAs, register the doing business as or the sole proprietorship with the state as a logo. So now this allows you to use this logo throughout the state. Now you have to check and question the fact of how you can operate the business statewide as far as you having the logo registered. Now that's the big question. But in that fact, you could rest assured that nobody can go to the state level and take that name because you've connected the doing business as with that logo. Now, there's no paperwork that they're going to accept on the state level as far as the city, as far as a registration of a fictitious name or business. It's just basically if the name on the state level is registered or not. So you do take that chance with doing business as if somebody on the state level has your name registered at the state level. So those are just some of the things you need to think about. Fictitious names are not protected. Sole proprietorships and doing business as are not protected. Somebody can call into the state, register that with some articles, and have your name. But fictitious name, you can protect it. You can throw them off by putting the ending of that parent that fictitious name is under at the end of the name of the fictitious name. And to go to a further degree to discourage them, but also to protect it, register a logo with the fictitious name. So if you have, we got Monster Lawn Care, and now we have Great Shoes. I took it to the degree as Great Shoes LLC. So it's a fictitious name, but still, if somebody calls in, they say, yeah, there's a fictitious name registered, Great Shoes LLC. Oh, and also it's a slogan and a logo, so you definitely can't have it. So now we protected that. On the city level, they have no protection as far as state laws goes because they're by the city level. So they can take it to the degree and take a chance to see if anybody has their name registered, and if not, engraft that name in a logo immediately. That protects you 5 years from anybody from the state going up there trying to take your name, and you can still operate citywide. So I hope we've got a good, clear vision of about fictitious names, doing business as, sole proprietorships. Professor Point here at Business Mind Developers. Hope you grow.